Most people don't fail at learning because they're dumb. They fail because they're learning like perfectionists. They aim to master everything. They start with theory. They rely on motivation. And if you're lazy, that approach wipes you out fast. I'll show you how to learn any skill fast by changing how you approach learning, not how hard you work. No discipline hype, no suffering, just a smarter path that fits how your brain already works. Let's start with why learning feels so heavy. Most people treat learning like climbing a mountain. They think, I'll start once I understand everything. But that means weeks of effort before any reward. And let me pause here. Have you noticed this? You don't quit because the skill is hard. You quit because it feels pointless for too long. Lazy brains aren't weak. They just refuse to pay energy up front with no feedback. Traditional learning is optimized for the wrong goal. Traditional learning optimizes for mastery, complete coverage, no gaps, full understanding. Sounds smart, but here's the catch. Your brain keeps asking, why am I spending so much energy for something I can't even use yet? If mastery worked, school would have made everyone fluent already. Instead, motivation drains. Progress feels invisible. And people blame themselves. That's why just try harder never works. Once you stop chasing mastery, a much more realistic goal appears. Lazy strategic learners don't aim for mastery. They aim for functional proficiency. Not, I know everything, but I can actually use this. This clicked for me when I stopped asking, how do I become great? And started asking, what's the smallest version of this skill that already works? That's the logic behind the first 20 hours. Not expertise, escape velocity. Quick check for you. What would good enough to use look like for your skill? This is where the learn any skill fast promise turns practical. Most people open the entire curriculum. Lazy learners cut it down ruthlessly. Ask this. If I only had 10 minutes a day, what part of this skill would still matter? Languages? High-frequency words, not grammar theory. Music? A few core chords, not scales. Coding? One tiny project that actually runs. This is pure 80/20 thinking. Less content, faster payoff. Now here's where people still mess up. Most people study before touching the skill. Lazy learners reverse that. They practice immediately badly, then learn only what fixes the mistake. Action, feedback, adjustment. Instead of studying editing theory, cut a 20-second clip today, then ask, what's one thing making this weak? Learn that. Fix it. That feedback creates dopamine. Dopamine creates momentum. And once momentum starts, quitting gets harder. But starting is still the biggest hurdle, so let's remove friction so starting feels stupidly easy. Here's the mistake that ruins everything. People rely on willpower. Lazy learners don't. They redesign the environment. Make starting take under 2 minutes. Open the app. Play one chord. Review one card. Then stack it onto something automatic. After coffee, 2 minutes. After brushing teeth, one tiny rep. You're not forcing habits. You're sneaking past resistance. Getting started is half the battle. Remembering is the other half. Memory isn't about repetition. It's about timing. That's why lazy learners use spaced repetition tools. They decide when to review, you just respond. Short sessions, right moment, minimum effort. And here's something people overlook. Breaks aren't laziness. They're where the brain connects dots in the background. Walks, showers, doing nothing. You're still learning. Now, here's the shift that changes everything. When you switch to this approach, learning stops feeling heavy. You don't negotiate with yourself. Progress shows up fast. Confidence builds early. Not because you became disciplined, but because the system stopped fighting your brain. Lazy learners don't win by trying harder. They win by choosing better paths. Learning fast isn't about forcing discipline. It's about designing a system your brain actually wants to repeat. If you want to go deeper and learn how to make studying feel addictive, click the next video on your screen. This is Peak Razor. Let's build productivity system that win daily.